The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on February 28, 2023.
Good morning. It's time for Business Matters with your host, Pam Toompop. Good morning, Pam.
Hey, Gary. Good morning. How are you?
I'm very good.
Thank you so much for always producing this show with us. We really appreciate you. Well, aloha and welcome everybody to Business Matters today, sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. I'm Pamela Timpot, president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, and it is going to be a great morning. We're going to start off by talking with Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke for the first time in this new role about her priorities this year. We're then going to hear from Senator Lynn Decoite on access deer and economic development initiatives, and then we're going to learn about a Maui company who is saving bees. But let's begin with Lieutenant Governor Luke. She is the state of Hawaii's 16th Lieutenant Governor, the third woman to hold the office, and the first Korean American elected to a statewide office in the United States. I had no idea. Since she was elected to the Hawaii State Legislature in 1998, where she served until 2022 before taking on this new role. Good morning, Sylvia. Great to have you with us.
Morning. Good morning, Pam.
My uncle was Korean. He passed several years ago, but I didn't realize you were the first Korean American elected to statewide office in the United States.
In fact, I didn't know about that either, because, we have Korean American legislators, and even in the nation, I heard about Korean American Congress member. And then so after I got elected, I was contacted by including national Korean media, and even locally, they said, hey, did you know that you're the first Korean American individual who got elected to statewide office? And I thought, oh, wow, that's so incredible. And, for me, as you know, I came to Hawaii when I was from South Korea as an immigrant, couldn't speak a word of English. And for someone like me to have an opportunity to be the lieutenant governor and help the state solve problems, this is what Hawaii is all about. It's so special, and it's about people of Hawaii giving me an opportunity.
It really is amazing, and we are very blessed to live in this beautiful island state. And it just goes to show, and of course we all know you put in a lot of hard work and perseverance and continue to rise in the roles that you had. But it's so nice to know, and what a great honor, and how special to know that for your family. Oh, I think we might have lost Lieutenant Governor. Sylvia, are you there? Okay. Well,
looks like we lost her, Pam. I'll try to get her back.
Okay, wonderful. Well, while Gary gets her back on the phone, we're so excited to, she also was the House Finance Chair prior to becoming Lieutenant Governor.
Okay, I think she's back, Pam.
Many years. Thank you. That's okay. It's happened to all of us at one time or another. No worries. Well, let's start talking about one of the things that you're very passionate about and is one of your top priorities, universal preschool. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenges that we're facing in this, which is why we really need to move forward with it, and how are you working to solve those?
Absolutely. The universal access to preschool is so important. Right now, when you look at 3 and 4 year olds, we have 35,000 3 and 4 year olds. But according to what we have found, and through data, only about half are attending preschools, and it's out of 35,000 kids, about 18,000 are attending preschool. Out of 18,000, 17,000 out of the 18 are going to private preschools, and only about 900, which includes sometimes special ed and charter schools are filled on the public side. So can you imagine most, it's not even 90%, it's like close to 95% or more of the current preschool kids are attending private preschool. So that means half the 3 and 4 year old population have no ability, and they're going to kindergarten without having gone to any kind of preschool at all. And this is really a social justice issue because people who can afford to send their kids to preschool are doing it right now, and people who simply can't, or there are no preschools around where they live or where they work, are not having that access. After we figured out the numbers, we think about 20% of the parents of 3 and 4 year olds will opt out of sending their kids to preschool because they trust their family more or they have other issues. So that leaves about 9,000 kids who are underserved. 9,000 is equivalent to about 450 classrooms. So the mandate placed on the state by the legislature when I was in the House was that by 2032, we need to make sure that all 3 and 4 year olds will have access to preschool. So that means 450 classrooms in 10 years means, we have to build about 45 to 50, which is not an unreasonable number when you break it down. And okay. Pam, we work together on so many issues throughout the years, and you know that, I'm really about data and numbers driven. So what I did was delve down and to figure out exactly how many is needed on the islands. And when you break it down in those bite-sized pieces, it sounds like a doable goal, and we owe it to our future generation to make sure that this happens.
I do love that you're a numbers person. And, these are really staggering numbers. Sometimes we hear about something very broad, like universal preschool. Exactly. And people think, well, okay, is this really needed? How much is it going to cost? And we get into some of these other issues without understanding the base of why we're even looking at it to begin with, and understanding the numbers and understanding how many children are underserved. So, wow. So this is, I just love that as you've broken it down. When you do, like you said, get to those little pieces and you look at it in bite sizes of how can we do it, it seems more achievable when you hear sort of this big lofty goal without knowing the data and think, I don't know how we're going to get there. And then we start looking at other elements of the issue without getting to the core. Now, how does this play into another initiative that is being discussed, which is called Keiki Ready?
Right. Yeah. So the Keiki Ready initiative is what we call the preschool access issue that I just talked about. So the Ready Keiki initiative is taking in the mandate of the legislature to ensure that all 3 and 4 year olds will have access to preschool by 2032. The Keiki Ready initiative, or Ready Keiki initiative, is somewhat different from all the other efforts that we have done in the past because it's a mixed delivery. What we have found was that we can't just do a universal pre-K just to the public model. We can't just try to solve this preschool problem just by building public preschools, because we have incidences where we have built out public preschools and they have not been full capacity, only because now we're dealing with working families, and unless that preschool provides before school and after school care, how many people do we know who can leave work at 2:30 or 2:15 and then drive to where back to where they live, right, and then drop your kids off at work? So that's why the public model sometimes doesn't fit completely with working families. So what we're trying to do is that we're building classroom on the public side, but also helping on the private side through what's known as preschool open doors, and that's a subsidy to lower income and mid, kind of low mid level income folks to be able to afford preschool services on the private side.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my whole life I was a working mom with two children.
Yeah, and you can imagine, the way that the schools are built. We build schools where people live, and a lot of times when you're dealing with 3 and 4-year-olds, and these are babies, and people have a hard time leaving their babies at preschool and then driving basically, 45 an hour away to a workplace, and then there's no way to pick your child up, or you don't have after school programs. So it becomes a little bit more challenging when you're dealing with 3 and 4-year-olds. So what we're trying to do through this Ready Keiki initiative is not only build preschools where people live, but build preschools around work centers.
Right.
So a lot of it, we are also overlaying where the workplaces are and looking at how we can build, public preschools and or help private preschools in the major work areas. So it's changing the paradigm of how we have always done things, and it's challenging state departments to look at the needs of our population and build out, and then it will lead to much more successful model.
Well, I love this, and I can only imagine also with open retail space too. There might be some exciting opportunities, as you say, to get into work centers where people are. I think that's phenomenal. But again, it's a different driven model.
Exactly. And so we're already looking at some spaces on Maui where we can purchase and build preschools, and it will be more around workplaces and, the work centers. And the other thing is because they're not currently schools in, certain areas, we're working with the charter schools to see if we can open new charter schools specifically geared towards preschool education.
I think that's fascinating. And I love that, again, we're looking at new ways to just think outside of the box. You've got the data. You can see the numbers. And again, it gives us more flexibility. Like you say, okay, you're looking to build 45 to 50 new classrooms, but also if you're able to look in new ways, it doesn't have to be you're building out more within an existing school system or right connected to that school system. I think my kids are grown now, obviously, and out in the world doing their own things, but to have had the flexibility to have a preschool right in the area. I mean, I never did. It was always a challenge. And it was always a challenge even with the after-school program to make it by 5 o'clock. So it especially, it was a lot of finagling to get to the after-school program on time. What a great new way to envision this. I think parents are going to be thrilled by these new models once they really understand them.
And because last year the legislature provided $200 million to build preschools, this is not an initiative where we think of an initiative, come out with a plan, and go to the legislature for funding. They already entrusted the department to build using $200 million. So my job is to try to maximize the $200 million. So initially, because I'm also kind of a penny pincher in my personal life and
in a good way, folks.
Well.
If you don't know, Sylvia is a penny pincher in a very good way to maximize return on investment. That's what she means.
Yeah. So initially, we estimated $2 million for construction of a new preschool and $1 million for renovation. But now, working with the Department of Education and School Facilities Authority and Executive Office of Early Learning, we potentially have reduced that cost to about $500,000. And so we're trying to maximize the amount that has been given by the legislature, and already we've identified about 80 classrooms that can be either renovated or constructed. So we have identified the first 11 that are ready to go around the state, and those should be going out to some type of a bid or some proposal in a few months.
Wow.
And I think that's why even the legislators are very excited about this program. A lot of times, you know how it is, Pam, we pass bills and then we give money, and you don't know, you're still struggling with the departments, and you don't know what's happening. And a lot of times even the project that you thought was going to happen ends up being delayed for 10 years, or sometimes it never happens because, other problems come up. So the fact that we have just been given the money last year, and for us to be able to identify 80 classrooms that can be renovated or constructed, and the fact that we've identified the first 11 to go out for a renovation in a few months, this was super exciting for legislators, and we're going to continue to work with the departments and push each other to meet the goal.
I think that's phenomenal. And for those who maybe aren't clear on the system, I mean, it's to have the funding already in place is a gem. But this is only March. The legislative session started in January. So you can understand why the legislators are this excited to hear this news, because this is unheard of to be this far along with a plan.
After just passing it last year.
This is really very forward thinking and progressing on a timeline that is not the kind of thing that we see every day at the state legislature. So I think due to your great leadership and working with the departments and just really making it happen is phenomenal. Lieutenant Governor, you want to tell us about, I know one of your other statewide priorities is statewide access to technology. Do you want to share a little bit about that as well?
Absolutely. One thing that we all realized the last 2 years while we were going through the pandemic together, we realized the importance of broadband and having good, reliable internet connection. Broadband is not only something that is something nice to have, it's a necessity. And it's relevant in healthcare when we do telehealth. It's relevant in education. That became so evident when we were everybody had to go virtual learning, and even the legislative session, and I'm sure in your meetings now, Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, virtual meetings are just part of our regular daily lives, and it's convenient for individual, and it provides so much more opportunities and time saving for us to do other things. The federal government provided so much money to the state, and a lot of times, we always hear about federal government giving state money, and then the state doesn't end up maximizing it, and sometimes, we don't try to grab as much funding from the federal government. So we have an opportunity to use federal funds, very little state funds, a lot of federal funds to build redundancy. So that means hopefully it will decrease costs for internet service or free internet service or internet service where we can actually get internet service. If we go to Lanai, there's so many pockets in that area where we can't get any service, and there are pockets on Maui where you're barely getting one bar, right? Or you're getting no internet service, and this is really not just a health issue, but access to education and even workforce development. Because can you imagine for our kids, this opens up a new opportunity where they work on Maui and be able to work out of, or they live in Maui and work out of the Big Island or DC or San Francisco, and they can work anywhere with a reliable broadband. So we're really excited about this, and thanks to the governor, he entrusted me with this role because it's something that I was working on as a legislator, and this takes a lot of coordination between the University of Hawaii, DBED, DHHL, because they also got some funding, Department of Transportation, and many others to ensure that broadband cable lines are built and families and workplaces and businesses have reliable internet service.
Well, again, a very important initiative, and we saw how important it was for telehealth during COVID, especially in our aging population. And there have been some great programs. I've been a part of the Broadband Hawaii and seeing some of the educational programs, some of the things taking place through the libraries to teach our seniors how to get online and have this access is so critical. And then again, also supporting our children who, they were deployed from home and needing to get on the computers for their education. So that was critical. And I love that also the workforce development angle. For years, when my daughter was in college, a lot of her friends would come and stay at our house for an extended period of time. And they actually worked for big corporations on the mainland, some of them in not universal, but global teams, where they would be from Maui. Sometimes they'd get up at, very early in the morning, but connecting with people across the globe, working right here from Maui or taking their laptops down to the beach and doing customer service or other things from the islands. And so we know it's possible, and it's a great way to bring our children back home.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very important to me because it's one of those assets that's going to bring my children back home. So I love hearing that you're involved in this, because for me, your involvement means that we have a watchdog who is going to maximize the dollars and make sure that it gets done. And
yeah,
gets done
thank
efficiently.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, Lieutenant Governor, we are so pleased to have you in the role. Thank you so much, Sylvia, for joining us on Business Matters. We'll have you back again to give us updates.
Yeah,
and thank you for sharing the data.
Yeah, thank you, Pam. I'll talk to you folks later.
Okay, well, it's our great pleasure, and we'll talk again soon.
Mahalo.
Aloha, and we'll be right back after a moment from our sponsor, Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
Welcome back to Business Matters. Pam, as we wait for Senator Decoite to call in, I hear that you guys have some kind of party going on coming up.
Thank you so much, Gary. We do. We have on March 4th, this Saturday, but tickets are still available if you want to join us. It's called Biz Mix Maui. Alaska Airlines is our elite sponsor, and our title sponsor is Maui Health Systems. And we are so thrilled to be, again, we had held our first Biz Mix in March of 2020, and then COVID hit, and we couldn't do it for 2 years, but we're back at the Grand Wailea, and it's going to be a fun mix and mingle, lots of exciting things, great, interesting entertainment, and works of performance art. So join us if you can this Saturday for Biz Mix Maui. It's going to be the second one held, and it's called Black and White. So you can dress in black and white. We encourage everybody to dress in black and white, but also there'll be a costume contest. So if you want to come in a black and white costume, you might have a shot at a round trip on Alaska Airlines. So we encourage everybody to get involved and join us for that event. And I understand Senator Lynn Decoite is with us, so I just want to give a little bit of an introduction to her. I think, as our Maui crowd, we know her well. Senator Lynn Puolani Decoite was appointed by Governor Ige in 2021 to fill the Hawaii State Senate seat for District 7. It was a vacancy that came about when Kalani English left the Senate and was elected to continue in that seat in 2022. However, she previously served as a member of the Hawaii House of Representatives representing District 13 and was serving her fourth term when she was appointed to the Senate. So we all know our great Senator, Lynn Decoite. And Lynn, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on.
Hey, morning, Pam. Great to be back on.
Oh, good morning. Well, you are now the Senate Committee Chair on Energy, Economic Development, and Tourism. This is a colossal role and a very coveted committee to lead and chair. Tell us about some of your top initiatives this year.
Well, I gotta say, coming in, what an honor to be serving as the chair for the committee. The film industry has definitely taken a priority for me as an economic driver. One, it focuses on jobs and job training for our Hawaii residents. Specifically looking at this as a motion picture, digital media, and film production income tax credit that enhances the film industry. It's an economic driver.
I think that's
for
really
jobs
important.
as well as
And we've seen how film. I've been doing some work with our local musicians too, and how film translates not only into the production side, but they hire so many of our local videographers, and now they're buying music from our local musicians. It really is a broad array that has great benefits to us.
Well, it's such a broad array that, we've said, time and time again, affordable housing, wages, and then, with the tourism portion of it, it also allows for us to market through filming. And I think this is huge. And, you got well-known names like Jason Momoa, Dwayne Johnson's, we're running films like NCIS, and, you name it. The list goes on and on.
Yeah, Hawaii is definitely we have some great champions in our mix who are helping us out, and we're getting some great programming happening here. That's really exciting.
Well, it's very exciting. And, another priority for our small businesses in my new role also is learning about all the different offices and agencies that we have in DBED. There's many programs that we have for helping small businesses with grants, loans, and opportunities. HTDC has been huge for many of the businesses that want to and choose to get involved in high tech. It's something that, we really got to take a look at and have gotten my attention as well.
They have. We have worked with HTDC, and I know MEDB does a lot of work with HTDC, especially in what they call these innovative technology grants. And there are different grants for different industries that the federal government supports, and they can be some pretty hefty grants to help you develop new elements within your whether it's ag or computing or IT or there's a whole different educational grants, but they're looking for innovative models, and then HTDC, in addition to the federal grants, can not only help you with that but do matching. So they've got some great programs. I'm glad to hear that that's something that sparked your interest. But also, there, like you said, many also grants through DBID themselves. And I do want to mention for our listeners, sometimes we use acronyms, especially in state government. So DBID means the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, and HTDC means the High Tech Development Corp.
Yes, sorry about that.
It's a nasty habit we get into. I've been doing that for years. Supplement soup. Oh my gosh! Well, I also is there others that you want to share about the because of course I'm excited to talk about Access Tier 2, but I don't. Is there other programs or top initiatives under your committee that you're looking at?
Well, of course, the hotel industry and tourism, and then what I really like about it is this program that we have, the destination management program. It gets our communities involved. We've had our challenges with tourism, but it really gets the community involved to set priorities and give us also direction. While we know tourism is a huge revenue maker for the state of Hawaii, it allows us to prioritize. It allows us to work through different types of systems so that way we have that welcoming experience for tourists as well as the experience of our residents being able to interact through business, through learning, and also educating. So, that has been huge for us. And it works hand in hand with the people that live in the area and people that wanting to come and visit and have that welcoming and experience of aloha in the state of Hawaii. More so for us in Maui and Maui County.
Yeah, I think that there's some great programs that, like the DMAP. I'm so thrilled to see that they've gone out to each of the and again, DMAP is Destination Management Action Plan, but they've gone to each island in Maui County, and the Molokai group were staunch champions of this initiative and how they're engaging to shape the tourism industry on Molokai to really give them both allow our community to teach and really welcome, but to engage visitors in really learning about the importance of Molokai.
Yes, it does. And I've sat in some of the meetings, and like I said, it's an opportunity for every island to prioritize. All of us know that we have friends and family that come to visit from the mainland, and the key really is educating them. I always go back to the reservation system we have in Wainapanapa.
Yes.
That reservation system has been key to allowing not overpopulating, but also it allows for our residents to go into these different parks and areas for free, while those that are tourists have to figure out when's the best time, and if there's too many people there, that they find someplace else to go so that we don't impact the area and the resources that are there, but at the same time a fee is paid while entering into those parks and areas so that it goes back to employ our local residents, to provide jobs, and at the same time to have those local residents have the interaction and educate about the very place that they live, where to go or not to go, and really be careful and respect the area that you're going into.
It is. It really is a phenomenal program. I have a question for you because I know this year there's been a couple bills that address this very thing, which is protecting our local resources and state parks, and also collecting fees, which we're excited about. Fees free to residents, but fees for visitors who want to visit these areas. But it sort of merged into two different concepts now. So I'm curious if you have a preference. One is, again, looking at it park by park and looking at the fees per park. And then there was another bill, which is sort of an all-access statewide pass. Do you have a preference on those on either one of those concepts?
Both of them could actually work. It's how they'll be managed. I like the park by park because if you go in that park, those parks that are impacted, I feel that those fees should stay within that park. As you know, many of our parks that are hit with visitors or even residents, it's fun thing to go back to help those areas, especially like in, East Maui. It's had its major challenges, roads, bridges, those resources that have been impacted. Just get people to maintain those areas, the drive out there, has been crucial. But again, which is why we exist, is to look at all options. Yeah. As long as we can have it managed properly, how the funds would be divvied up, I think that's really the key behind how we make sure those areas are taken care of. And that's why when you have stuff like that and you have the destination management action plan, it allows for the very people that live in that area to have the conversation and to say, okay, these are the areas that have been really impactful. How do we spread that out? How do we look at those fees that are then collected and then given back in whether it be education, whether it be to protect those areas, whether it be to manage and maintain those areas so that everybody has the options and choices of, being able to use those parks and facilities.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, this is something that our residents are calling for, and it's happening. I'm really excited about the work that's being done to ensure that our critical places and the places we enjoy, as you said, are going to be managed, but managed both for visitors and managed for us so that we have greater access as well. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Let's talk about access, dear, because I know this is a top priority of yours. It's a top priority of mine, and we appreciate working with you on this. Let's talk about how things are moving forward in the process this year.
Of course, we still have the emergency proclamation going forward, trying to address what's happening. This has been an important issue for me since 2019. We could have prevented a lot of this as we try to push legislation and try to manage deer. And we were hit with major opposition from some individuals. Of course, come 2020 on Molokai, we literally had deer dropping dead on the side of the road because of overpopulation. And we finally got people's attention via the drought. So thankfully, as we continue to work together, we try to find solutions. We won't be able to, make everybody happy with the kind of solutions that we have to take and measures that we'll have to put in place. But which is why we sit down and we have the conversation. What works on Maui might not work on Lanai or Molokai, and those are the three major islands that have been inundated and impacted by this year. It has eroded our lands. It has just devastated farms and ranches. But at the same time, we have bills that are still moving through the legislature, which requires the Department of Ag in collaboration with our Interagency Council on Homeland, DLNR, DOFA, Department of Health, all these branches to develop and implement a plan to expand the meat processing capacity in our state. We've had conversation with the director, our new appointee, Director Fink from the Department of Health. Some of the challenge that they had was trying to inspect and then use access deer for the sale. And as we wait to see, which is why I've been pushing on them, I said, what is the problem on the certification? I said, we need to get clarity. The clarity needs to be made clear. How do we go up on the certification? Can the state be the actual inspection certification of a wild deer? And this has been back and forth. I said, we just need to know, can you do it or can't you, and who can, if it needs to be still inspected by the federal government. We do know that we can still harvest access there and donate it. But we've gotten above and beyond that point of donations, which they're very much welcome. But at the same time, as I work closely with Senator De La Cruz, is to capitalize also on a problem that we're dealing with. So, we have some other things that is coming down the hopper through the Senate, processing facilities, working with our people on the ground, as well as utilizing some of the resources that we already have to whether it be slaughter, and again, for the sale of a problem that we have been hit with drastically throughout the county of Maui.
Yeah. Well, I know that you have been a staunch champion, continue to be a staunch champion in this area, and I've watched that we're making more headway. I know there is opposition, and we really need people to understand that it's hard for some people to understand. Again, we're taking this up at the state level, so there's a lot of people who aren't experiencing it the way we are in Maui County. Number one, there's a lot of people who are animal rights activists and have concerns. But what we need people to understand is there is no other predator other than humans for access here. There is no other way of there's no natural force that is eliminating some of the hurt. So we're at a point where major damage is being done, and a lot of our environmental groups who once were trying to look at other measures other than culling are now saying, "Hey, the deer are destroying our watershed." We're seeing people align, and I can totally get different ideas for different islands because we have different nuances. But thank you for the great strides you're making there. And then I just wanted to ask, because I know your district includes Molokai, Lanai, and Hana, and some of the key challenges. If you can just share some of the key things that you're looking at for your region. I know transportation to Molokai, you've got one airline. So what is one or two of the top things that you're looking at for your district that is so diverse in terms of needs?
So I'd have to say, I think the hottest issue has been reliable air travel. It is actually the main issue for Molokai and Lanai, and Hana to a certain extent. You got people that, if they didn't have to leave their islands, they wouldn't be traveling. They would just stay there. They live in some of the best places in the world. But to get medical needs, it's crazy. You go down to the airport, or even prior to going to the airport, 3 o'clock in the morning, you get a text saying your flight has been changed to 4 hours later. They have hotel reservations booked because they try and go down to do several things, maybe a physical, maybe chemotherapy, and they book their hotels in advance. Well, now that the flight is delayed, they've missed the first visit to the doctor, which now trying to rebook that because you have to wait several months. And then they're forced to pay the hotel reservations because now they're trying to cancel it.
Right.
But, having reliable air travel, and it also impacts the families that also live in my district up country because all of a sudden, our office became complaint center for Mokulele. And, we get every call literally that comes through there. And I said, number one, I don't own Mokulele. We try to work with them. We try to see what the state can do to help them, like the bathrooms. Literally, we bring in bathrooms to accommodate because there's just one male, one female on Oahu bathroom. And, ADA compliance is a big thing.
Right.
So, those two bathrooms can be ADA compliant. Again, they also have to put it on there. It should be on there. And then so we bring in a trailer for women, 3 stalls for women, 1 for men, and a urinal. And I get on call while I'm in Maui. Says, by the way, Lynn, those bathrooms are plugged. I'm like, holy smokes, now I became the plumber? But, it's so frustrating, Pam, for the people that are just waiting. I remember one day, people had to get off of the island, and they literally got their friend, brought the boat, jumped on the boat, went to Maui, jumped up in Lahaina, caught the Uber, went back around because, you also have people that have connections that have to go back to the mainland. They come into Molokai or Lanai and, the different areas for funerals, which which is another big transportation area. But I gotta say, the air travel and many of the families that also live in my district or country are like, what are you guys doing about this? It's not a monopoly because any airline can come in. But I've reached out also to the congressional delegation, and so we're hoping to get some movement on the EAS service. And, it's basically all hands on deck. But again, when I've reached out to many other airlines, I mean, United Express, Southwest, I mean, you name it, many other private carriers in the mainland, they're like, Lynn, we're not coming to Molokai. One is you guys keep protesting everything. And I'm like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, hang on. I said, we're just asking for services, because we're paying like $100 plus one way. And, once you get off the ground, you're renting cars. They're just getting hit left and right. And, I actually even got a bill in there to try and do a subsidy at some point. We get all these emails, and Pam, you got to admit, some of the emails are like really harsh, but, I take it in stride, and try and use it as creative criticism, try and sit down with my colleagues. Some of my colleagues like, Lynn, you're nuts. I said, we got to do something. This is an emergency situation of medical needs. We had one where we couldn't even get life flight up to pick up a woman in labor. We literally had to get Mokulele to. We need that plane. That woman is gonna she's gonna rupture. She's gonna die. So we literally some of us actually step off some of those flights. So I try to go them on the weekends, only to be hit with people are waiting to come home after, whether it be doctor's appointment, and I literally step off my flight and say, I give them a seat. By the time I get back home on Saturday, I return back either Sunday because there's no flight to come back on Monday to work. But those are just a few of the challenges. And this goes on every day, every week. Like I got on call last night. By the way, your flight for Friday has just been canceled. And I'm like, what? 4 days in advance. And then you go on the website and it's completely wiped out. In any event, like most of the businesses, Pam, we've seen the challenges of us being able to find workers. They're hit with those challenges of pilots leaving, of workers not coming into work, of mechanics going to other airlines because of better pay and so forth, which is why the forcing of some of these planes have been grounded.
Yeah.
At the same time, we got to come up with something better than what we're doing because there are many challenges for individuals, not just on Molokai and Lanai, but also on Maui that have tried to get back and forth to help with other things on the islands, as well as our doctors that are actually flown in to Molokai and other areas of our district. So it has been a rough ride, and we hope to get some attention on this through congressional, because a lot of this is all FAA stuff that we're dealing with. But at the same time, it's not to kick the ball down the road, it's to come up with solutions. So I've actually had a woman that had actually literally just chastised me. And, and you guys know how sometimes I can take it and I can also dish it. It comes with the territory. And, I thought, let's just sit down and talk about some of the solutions. Because we know what the complaints are. We need solutions. Right. And I think that would be really helpful. And I say that with a grain of salt because, it's very challenging to solve a lot of problems when you can't get one portion of the problem to become the solution. And we listen and we take everything into stride and say, okay, since we couldn't do this, how about this? Some of the things you brought up is things that we should be looking at. How do we prioritize medical needs for some of the patients? Yeah. How do we plan ahead to make sure the travel for some of these residents that need to get off island is a priority? I can tell you that Mokulele, when I sat down with them to have conversation, was, as they try to transition and bring in that second saw, which I'm told is in Oahu right now, it is also to help alleviate if you have 3 Cessnas that are delayed. And, this wind has been treacherous. The weather is just going crazy. And, some of that is just flying in the plane at 40-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, I can tell you, I'll literally just sleep through the whole ride, and everybody's yelling on the plane like, "Oh my God!" But we take it in stride, and it's some of the challenges that we're dealing with, and I can tell you that there are a lot of challenges that the state has to deal with, and we work through them as fast as we can and as best as we can, making sure safety. Like I said, better late than never. We know the challenges of many of the plane crashes that have happened, and I would never want that to happen to anybody. That plane needs to be safe. It needs to be operational to get you to and from your destination and not fall out of the sky, as you would call it.
Yeah. And this is a tough one, like you said. I mean, you're dealing with, you've got FAA rules, so you're dealing with federal, state, county issues, island issues, but in our remote regions, it is a crisis situation for emergency health care.
It's not to take away from other things, but between that and, of course, our famous cesspool conversions,
yes,
that has also been a huge issue. As you guys know, the converting of cesspools to septic, we've spent many hours meeting with the department, meeting with the different groups, and the task force was put together. The challenge is trying to now convert and then be affordable, and who can afford to do it? Like we've reached out and sat with Department of Health. We said, then what are the options? Is there a way we can group this up? We have a bill that is going through on a tax credit bill that is actually being heard on March 2nd. In fact, we have several of them that is actually going through. And, we're trying to figure out how, the high priority areas. And again, too, for those that cannot afford it, my question has always been, what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do when they can't afford to convert over, and how do then we address the talk of affordable housing? So the tax credit bill that we have being heard in WAM will be on March 2nd.
Lynn, I'm gonna have to stop there because I think we're about to end, but we'll ring in on March 2nd, and I'll have you get us more information on that. But I want to thank you for joining us because the show is going to be ending any second now. But thank you so much for joining us, Lynn, and we'll continue that talk about cesspools. Well, Lynn, thank you for joining us and sharing this, and we will we'll continue to talk about cesspools, and thank you for all the great work that you're doing and working with your community on everything from how we solve these critical health challenges and address economic development and our access to your problems. You are a great champion, and we appreciate you. And we will, I'll reschedule and reach out to Be Nourished, who was our beet company that was going to join us this morning. We ran a little bit late and didn't get to that, but we'll reach out to them and have them on the next show. Thank you all who are listening. We appreciate you joining us for Business Matters, and send blessings and best wishes for a beautiful Maui day. Aloha.